Hello, I'm Rob and I'm Team Rector here in Portishead. Lovely to be able to share a few minutes with you. I wonder if you can think of a time when you were pushed outside your comfort zone. I think all of us have different things that we find challenging. My family tease me about the fact I'm not very good at being silly. So when I think of moments when I'm outside of my comfort zone, it's usually when I'm asked to wear a silly hat or do something ridiculous, and I get very uneasy about it. For others of you, it may be something else. Maybe it's about a fear of heights or being in some other situation which is really unfamiliar and challenging. I wonder what that is for you. Well, we're going to hear a reading now about Peter being pushed outside his comfort zone. And as we listen to it, you might just want to listen out, just have a look, see what you can see about Peter and his comfort zone. Think about how he might be feeling at different moments through this story. It's a lovely passage. It's one of my favourites from the Gospels, and it comes from Luke chapter 5, verses 1 to 11. It goes like this. Once, while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw two boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the nets." When they'd done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so that they began to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." But he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of fish they'd taken. And so also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." When they'd brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. It's a great story, isn't it? I love the way that it's shown in the film The Miracle Maker. If you've seen that, an animated telling of the story of Jesus, where Simon Peter is a gruff Yorkshireman, grumbling at Jesus. I wonder what you thought about where Peter was within and beyond his comfort zone. But I love the way that Jesus is faced with a situation. He's faced with a problem. He's overwhelmed with crowds, and he sees a solution. So he says to Simon Peter, "Look, will you push me out in your boat a little bit so that I'm not being overwhelmed with the crowds, and let me use your boat as a pulpit?" So Simon Peter, seasoned fisherman, says, "Yeah, that's no problem at all." And he goes a little way out from shore, and you can just picture him, this very skilled boatman, there just leaning a little bit on one oar, a little bit on the other, to make sure that the boat is steady and that Jesus has a secure place to preach from. Absolutely at ease within his comfort zone. But then things change. And what's funny here, I don't know if you spotted this, but when I think of areas outside my comfort zone, it's usually things that I don't do very often. In areas where I'm unfamiliar, and I try to make sure I'm not in those situations. But here with Simon Peter, it was something that he was very familiar with. It was about fishing, and he was a fisherman. But here Jesus says to him, look, let's go out and drop the nets for a catch. And Simon Peter is there going, well, we fished all night and we haven't caught anything. And this is broad daylight. And Peter knew as a fisherman that you don't catch fish in broad daylight. They go to the bottom of the lake, and you're not going to catch them in a net. And so suddenly he feels uneasy with this. But he recognizes who Jesus is, and he says, well, okay, if you say so, we'll do it. He takes a risk, even though this is his area of specialism. And Jesus as well. Jesus is a rabbi and a carpenter. What does he know about fishing? But they push out into deep water, they let down the nets, and they catch so many fish that Peter really doesn't know what to do with it. And he falls down before Jesus, and he says, "Depart from me, depart from me." Suddenly, he realizes that this is an extraordinary thing. This is an extraordinary man, and he and his friends say that they will follow Jesus. Jesus takes something that they think they know about, and he reminds them that actually he is the one who put stars into space. He is he was there at the beginning of creation, at the beginning of all things. And Jesus knows more even than they do about fishing, just as he knows more about every aspect of our lives and our competencies than we do. And this makes me think a little bit about the situation that we're in as a church at the moment. As we enter September, we are exploring a different pattern of services, but behind that, we're exploring what it means for us to be the church. You may know that over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, we've been involved in something called the Partnership for Missional Church, or PMC, which has helped us to think about what it is to engage in mission in the world, to be a part of God's mission in the world. And one of the things that has been really useful there has been identifying the difference between technical change and adaptive change. A technical change is where there's a problem and you can see an easy solution. The sort of thing that you might do. You say, well, our church hasn't got a toilet. Well, that's very easy. Let's build a toilet. We'll raise some money. We'll build a toilet. Problem solved. We've got a problem with children and young people. We don't have the volunteers. Well, that's fine. We'll raise some money and we'll employ a children or a youth worker to do that for us. There's a problem and there's a solution. But adaptive challenges and adaptive changes are a little bit deeper than that. Those are situations where we're forced to consider who we really are. Who is it that God's calling us to be? And how do we become that more? And, for many of us, we say, well, I really like that service. I like that style of service. And I don't see why we can't always have that service, because that's what I like. And that's a really good question. We all have things that we prefer and things that we would like more. But we're in a place at the moment where we're saying, well, how can we be the church? How can we be the people that God is calling us to be, and to be that more and more? And that doesn't have a technical solution, really. It's not a technical answer to that. There's not a sense of saying, well, we'll just make this little tweak and that will sort that problem out. But actually, it's more fundamental. It requires us to adapt at a deep level and to say, who is it that God is calling us to be? It may or may not mean that things change dramatically. But what will change dramatically is that understanding of who we are and who God is. And that's what happens to Peter here. Peter didn't learn any new skills. But what he did realize was that God And therefore Jesus was sovereign of everything, of every part of his life. And as we take a step or 2 steps or 3 steps towards really realizing and understanding that, so our lives as individuals and our lives as the people of God cannot ever be the same again. And as we find ourselves in this new space, my hope and my prayer is that we take a step towards a greater understanding of who we are, not just as individuals, not just as individual congregations, but as the people of God here in Portishead. It's challenging, pushes us outside our comfort zones, but it's also exciting. I hope that you will come with us on the journey. Dip your toe in this water, push out your boat to deep water, let down your nets, and see what it is God provides and shows us. Amen.